this Friday, and so we've come out of a 2-hour conversation trying to say, okay, can we sort out this issue? Did it take for you to come out into the public and say, okay, fine, there was an issue, number one. Can it be sorted? Yes. Will we sign? We can. You know, it's too long, essentially, as we say, long in the tooth for that to be sorted. But there were some things that were said. And in order to get some kind of clarification, the Secretary General of the KMPDU is now here with us. Dr. Davji Atellah is here in the Situation Room this morning. Good morning, Dr.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Yes.
In the last 2 hours, your name has come up. Quite some. And the union has come up. And there's a need for clarification on some things. So thank you so much for coming here this morning. But before we get into that, this is such an apt proverb that Dennis is sharing today. Let's get your interpretation of it.
We are in the Comoros, a country that borders Madagascar, the Indian Ocean, and they push the economy when it comes to matters to do with fishing, vanilla, and remittances that their citizens from abroad send back home. But let's go to the proverb. Words are like spears. Once released, they cannot return. How would you interpret that?
Yeah, I'll interpret that we have to be very careful when we say things or handle things, because when we say things out of emotions, when we come after anger or any situations, it is very difficult to take back whatever you have said, take back injury that has caused. That's how I interpret it.
A lot has been said against you, as you showed the last few minutes, you know. And with that brings us to this conversation. SG, do you have powers from the ministry to direct doctors to withdraw their services from Kiambu?
Or any county, for that matter.
Any county.
I have powers that is enshrined in the Constitution of Kenya and in the Union Constitution that I get from the elective position of membership to actually handle labor matters, to the point that we can withdraw workers from their workstations as a form of industrial actions to bargain for the rights of workers. But then we don't have powers to withdraw workers from the workstations in times like the ones for interns.
Okay.
But interns are members of the union and they can go on strike. Like when strike is on, they can participate in the strike. The case of Kiambu is a bit unique in the sense that the doctors have been on strike from May. Interns were posted in July. And we had hopes that the strike would not go for long, because the issues that we asked in this particular strike were straightforward, the things that every other county is doing. And therefore, that's why when interns were posted, we knew it was going to go well. By end of July, the county resorted to employing other doctors, about 70 of them, who then began writing out their issues, that they cannot manage certain complications because they're not consultants. The interns who have logbooks to be filled could not proceed. We asked the ministry that internship is a 1-year period. And therefore, if the interns in Kiambu, the doctor interns in Kiambu are going to be there, the way the county is handling this strike, they're going to be affected. Because you'll be paid salary, but then you're not trained. So it means that the next year you will go for internship for free. So we told the minister, can you intervene for this matter to end? The minister wrote to the Kiambu County, told Kiambu County, handle this strike issue. Otherwise, the interns who have been sent there, 700 of them, are being affected. The CS Duale actually organized a meeting for the union leadership and the governor, booked an appointment. I remember it was on 3rd of June. We had a flight to ILO in Geneva, me and chairman of the union. But when the minister called us, we cancelled that and went to have a meeting with the governor. The governor did not turn up. We stayed there. The next day, there was no meeting. And therefore, we come and provide the CS. Yes, we had cancelled all these trips to end this, but there's no progress. We continue engaging, but there was nothing moving. So the minister wrote to Kiambu County on 26th of August that if the interns are not, if the strike is not resolved by 15th of September, then we will have no otherwise but to redeploy them to other institutions where they can actually get services and where they can offer services and train as necessary. 15th of September lapsed. There was no reply whatsoever from the county. Then now, by 1st of October, the ministry indicated that now we have to redeploy because 4 months have gone. There is possibility of the 5th month going, and then the 6th month. It's going to interfere with the internship calendar because we want the new lots of interns to be posted. we're going to have these interns affected. Therefore, interns were to pick the letter beginning 1st of October. These ones, doctor interns, the interns from the all the interns. Why? Because there's no services in the hospital. There are no consultants. Why? Because the Kiambu County now is run on PR. So it's a directive that they knew. They tried to cover it, but facts are stubborn. Without actually offering services, you can't say they're offering. Without having consultants, you can't have training. That's why the interns were transferred. They knew it coming, but they dismissed it. Just the same way we gave them a strike notice and dismissed it. Because they say, if we have 350 doctors, we can actually have a county functioning with 70 doctors. And the likes of Nyaga are the same type of people we had in Laikipia in 2019, when a chief officer who is a doctor will misadvise the governor, will misadvise the administration and say, no, things are okay. We don't need doctors to run the hospital. And deaths occur. Because with doctors, with services, you either get treated as a patient or you get your situation escalating, deteriorating.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, look, it's good that you're here because there's certain things that have been put out that only you can either confirm or deny. And one of the things that has come through, which I find some kind of confusion, it was said very many times, and the current principal secretary for medical services in the Ministry of Health is a former Union Secretary General, held the same position that you currently hold.
Yeah.
And what we are being told today, and we're just going to go through this slowly, so, and not, of course, not for you because you get it, but for those who are listening in so that we can understand, that it had been made clear to the ministry, and this is taking into consideration from the PS's perspective, and not just at his level, but from the CS level, that it had been made clear that in Kiambu County there's a problem.
Yeah.
And what we are saying is that the doctors who are working in that situation then be redeployed because we need to fix this thing that's happening here. And in the meantime, we cannot have the staff continue in this manner. So far, so good? All right. The county says that this is at the influence of the union. That these letters that are coming from the ministry to redeploy medical workers is from the influence of the KMPDU by virtue of the fact that there's still a very tight relationship between the PS and the union because he was a former union man. Now, we also see the same letters going to clinical officers. We see the same letters going to the Nurses' Council. What kind of power does KMPDU have that would influence a principal secretary to write this letter at the advice of the CS for doctors, for nurses, for clinical officers in the same county? How?
Ignorance is never a virtue. And when a person in the capacity of a chief officer comes to the studio and make far-fetched propaganda and arguments, it shows us why this strike has gone for so long. It's actually a manifestation of the failure and the incompetence in the persons in actually handling their job. I am saying ignorance because the Ministry of Health has roles for different persons. The Principal Secretary for Medical Services, Dr. Luga, is in charge of the parastatals, level 6 hospitals, the SHA project, and the SHA, and all these others. While the Principal Medical Services, Mary Mudoni, is in charge of professional standards, which is now the interns, the issues of the CBA negotiations, all these matters. And even the deployment of interns is done in the Department of Mary Mudoni, the PS Public Service and Professional Standards. So the insinuation that there is influence or that there is the influence of the former union leader is far-fetched and is actually a display of somebody who is running away from their responsibility. That's one. Number two, when people are on strike, when doctors, 300 of them are on strike, 200 consultants are on strike, who have trained and have speciality to actually offer particular unique services that themselves only can offer, and not at work. It just takes a blind person to imagine that no, that is somebody else or 70 other medical officers can replace them and offer those particular services. You get me? So them denying that the services are offered in the normal way it has always been. Where have they got the 200 consultants who are on strike? Where have they gotten all the 300 doctors who are on strike? It is not possible. The fact that interns were posted there, they were posted to empty shells with an hope that the internship, the strike will resolve. So interns go to different departments. You have those going to psychiatric department. We have those going to the maternity department. Those going to surgery. We have those going. We have those in pharmacy. We have those in dental. It means that you must have these consultants working there. Now, when they are on strike and they are in those particular rotations, it means they're going to be the primary caregivers in those particular situations. It means they're the same ones who also need to handle complications. They'll be the first one in line, the second one in line, the third, and there's no any other recourse whenever there are any complications. So, what do we expect in that scenario? That they will not be trained as expected. They will offer services, but then there's nobody to guide them and give the services that is needed. And therefore, the outcomes will not be as expected.
Daktari, you see, as we have this discussion now, the issue has been the 10 points, the 10 issues that are on contention. We've seen that this is a matter that has escalated all the way to court. And there are the last two clauses, the clause on victimization where there is a problem. And the county has it's what it wants, and there is what the KMPDU wants. Where's the problem? Why can't you just get to agree on that? Why is this clause the problem in ending this stalemate? Can't you just sit and agree?
You know, we're dealing with very dishonest people. We are dealing with people that are drunk with power, people that are entitled, people who do not have regard to the very dignity of healthcare workers, the healthcare services in those particular counties. I don't know whether it was mentioned, but we have cited the county government of Kiambu workers for contempt. The chief officer here is a criminal now that is almost being jailed by the court because we have, and that's why they were meeting us, because the contempt jailing was hanging on them. So we had to meet down and agree on the 10 issues. We agreed. And the judge, Ongaya, said, now go and sign this particular consent and bring for filing. They had promised to promote it within 2 weeks. That is 2 months ago. They promised to pay statutory deductions. They said they're going to pay the salaries. All those things they said they're going to do. Until we said, okay, fine, let's go and sign. When we reached to sign the agreement 2 months ago, they say, now we have to redefine the victimization. And I'm like, is it the first time a strike is happening in this country? I have signed more than 300 return to work formulas, even for the national strike. What is it that is unique about Kiambu County that we need to redefine a clause that just say you are legally allowed to be on strike as per the law? So that was the whole point 2 months ago. So now again we're going to contempt. The contempt was not expunged. We're actually proceeding with that. That shows you that we're dealing with people who are dishonest. We have agreed on these matters 2 months ago. 2 months have lapsed. They have not implemented as directed by the court, which was expunging them from being jailed. We are proceeding back to court, and they're going to say we haven't agreed on our victimization, that we have not paid the salaries. It's that issue. So the strike that we have currently in the county is about the ego display of the governor. It's about the ego of the chief officer. It's about that who will blink first, because they don't want to pay the 7-month salaries that have not been paid. They're saying, and despite that, whatever we are asking for, they have not done them. They have given us promissory notes on those 10 issues. The promissory note that we took 2 months ago and have not been implemented. So essentially, it is the wrong attitude that the county has, which is well displayed from the chief officer as it speaks, because then it is a representation of the leadership, and that's what has made us to be up to this point, that they don't care. They feel like everything can be covered with the public relations. We will say, no, the hospitals are working and it's going to work. But in that essence, people are going to lose their life. Yesterday, I was having a discussion with one of the mothers who actually lost the baby in the hospital. It's quite a sad situation, because doctors' role every time is to treat patients. Now, when this mother had a preterm baby in the hospital, for 3 months, it was okay. But now, when the strike began, the county told him, no, we are okay. So the first month, it's just the interns who are there and a few of the people they employed who were not experienced on this, they're handling. 1 month down the line, she lost the baby. So she was like, had she known, she would have just left the hospital when the doctors left. But see, now the person who takes the full accountability is the county, because county will lie, things are okay. You go to the hospital, you get admitted, then you get complications, and the outcome is different. So they have to, and that's why we keep on saying now, the issue has to be escalated. It's no longer an issue of the governor. It's no longer the issue of just the chief officer. It's an issue of a Kenyan who voted for a president.
Okay.
It's an issue that we know that we have one Ministry of Health. It's an issue that we know that we have one exchequer where all these monies come from. So do we then need to have this Kiambu County healthcare taken back to national? I saw the MP saying it yesterday. And there's a rallying call that we will identify ourselves with. Because if county is unable to provide the care that is much needed by the people, then a bigger call then comes to the head of state. A bigger call comes to the country that what is the issue? Do we serve people's ego or we serve the Kenyans who elected us? The MPs have spoken, the MCS are speaking, the doctors are speaking, and everybody else is speaking. It can't be that everyone is wrong except this cocoon or cabal of individuals.
So even as we talk about that, and because that it still remains a conversation that's still very much front and center of what will happen in the coming days. And, days, not weeks, Davji. That needs to be sorted out because we can have ego play and all of this. But there are people who are unwell that need to be treated. There are people who need these services. But even while that is happening, the KMPDU has also said, not just Kiambu, but other counties in the country will actually call for strike notices. You've named a few already. And some of the issues that you talk about, unpaid salaries and arrears, excuse me, lack of medical cover, stalled promotions, unfulfilled agreements, unremitted deductions. And we're talking about Nakuru, Laikipia, Kajiado, Nairobi. And you're saying, you know what? You issued a 14-day nationwide strike notice over the government's failure to pay salary arrears in an agreed 2017 CBA. And you said, you know what, guys, let's get serious. If this doesn't happen, then countrywide we're going to shut it down. Is that the case?
There's a big difference now that we have with national government and county government.
And
I must display that the kind of attitude and responsiveness that we have from the Ministry of Health and from the national government we have not experienced before, where we have agreements signed and they're actually getting implemented. We had a meeting with the CS Duale around 10th of April when we just appointed. There's some raft of things that he told us are going to implement, like posting of doctor interns. It was the first time interns were posted and paid the first month on service without us having to demonstrate. And they're being paid the CBA rate of the 206,000. That was one good thing. Secondly, we had arrears that were owed to doctors for 7 years. He told us, we are going to pay this. And the second batch of that arrears was paid in this month. Actually, doctors of all across the entire country have received this money. The issues of postgraduate. So the ministry, headed by Duale and Oluga and Mudhoni, are doing their job. They're actually implementing even the SRC circulars that have been provided, the PSC circulars. But then we have a problem. That health is not just nationally run. Health is also devolved. The counties have a role to play. But what are counties doing? Counties are not doing their role, part of the role. For example, the SRC recommendations on the wage change, that was done last year. No county has done. No county has implemented. So we came down as all unions and say it is not possible that our counterparts in all the ministries headed by the Ministry of Health have their wages implemented, but then the 47 counties are not implementing. So we gave them a notice as entire union sector that they must act that within 7 days. Otherwise, we're going to have a joint action for the entire union fraternity. That's one. Number two, Number two, we have some counties who delay deliberately in paying salaries because you cannot explain why Nairobi County has not paid wages for 3 months and a county like Kwale has paid up to the month of September. You can't explain why Nakuru County colludes and do a hazard promotion. There's a promotion that's being done. Nakuru County will decide, and out of the list of 100 doctors, they look at which ones they reward individuals and hide. They reward 10 or 20 out of the people. The board, the county public service board there will be asking for bribes for those things. So why will that be happening in Nakuru? You'll say Kajiado County statutory reduction loans have been paid for over 2 years or 3 years. You'll find a county like Migori, whereby a governor goes down, fights with an MCA, and then he knows that this MCA wife is a doctor. The governor then organizes with the cabal, that is the county public service board chair, and fires this doctor. It happens in Migori, where Governor Chilayako actually fires a doctor because they have disagreed with an MCA in the parliament. So those are the problems that we cannot entertain as a union or as workers because it is not personalized. So these are things that we are facing and say this has to change. And we get problems with counties because they don't honor agreements. They get so personalized on matters.
Dr. You've mentioned both levels of government, national government at the ministry and how it's doing its job. Your demands are being met. Let's go to the counties, and there seems to be a problem at the counties. I just want to drop the question there. You talk about the Kiambu County, and perhaps maybe it needs to go back to the national government. Have the county governments let down Kenyans on matters healthcare? And if they are not able to deal with matters healthcare, should it go back to the national government?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of variation that comes in. You know, when you go to Wajir, like we went to visit Wajir last weekend, a week ago, and we look at the history, how the county was with 2 doctors, and now the devolution has made it to have over 70 doctors, and how the healthcare system is, you realize there's some difference. So for marginalized counties, or which are former district, there is notable changes that are seen. But when you come to overall healthcare in the counties, there's a problem. When you come to the overall number of doctors that are being employed every year, there's a problem. Before, when health was centrally in the ministry, doctors, nurses was employed annually, over 1,000 of them. All those who were graduating were getting employed. But now we have a big shortage in the counties, but there's no employment. There's no budget for that particular employment. So there's a shortage in the hospitals. Number 2, those who are few in those particular county hospitals are overworked. There is no leave. And then you're overworked amidst your wages not paid on time. You are not going on leave and your salary are not paid 3 months, 4 months. This is a conversation that has been there for 10 years.
But Davji, this is we've been talking about this for a while. That people don't go on leave. You're working, I don't know how many hour shifts. You're about to bust something in your brain. But it's from governor to governor. This problem has crossed over from one governmental administration to another across counties, and still it's not being sorted out. So are you saying that because of this, it's time we say, you know what, start from the beginning, reset this whole thing? Or are you saying take health and take it back to national?
It's a very ideal conversation because, as I said, even in the ministry, we've had 4 ministers. I realized that we are fighting with every minister except this current minister. That is the current secretary we have. So it means that he knows what he's doing.
Okay.
But then, even with the policy, things that not need to be known when they are to be implemented with 47 governors, you'll get about 15 of them are mad people. You get about 10 of them don't care about anything, are PR people. So maybe only 20 of them are doing this job. So the fact that we have to bend down to the egos of 47 people to have healthcare functional or standardized, that becomes a problem. Look at now the issue of the UHC. The national government has said, we have 6.2 billion, let's have these people put on permanent and pensionable terms. The president gave a declaration that any other cost that may be needed to give these UHC the PNP letters, we will cover. The governor said, no, we don't trust you. Why? Because this money will be paid now, 6.2 billion, but we have to say it is the equitable share next year to give these PNP letters. We know that all the money that goes to county as exchequer comes from the budget. So if it has been agreed, then why do you subject these workers to another waiting period out of your distrust? Those are the concerns that you're having. That's why there's a problem. You realize that SRC has given a standard guideline across the country. COG comes up and says, no, we can't implement it. And they don't implement it the first year and the second year. Therefore, that becomes a problem. And now we are saying, and it's a reality, that when we have healthcare as decentralized in different counties, there's a problem. We need to have a demarcation. To what level? Do we take the primary level 2 to 3 or to 4 for counties and they manage? Then we take these other levels to national. Why? Because then a budget will be set differently. We'll have the budget for healthcare workers, just the same way we have for the police, the same way we have for the teachers. And there's been a repeated indignification of Kenyans by the governors. We saw in Laikipia when doctors were fired for 40 months, when the situation was bad, how many people died that otherwise would have been saved? We saw the same in Kirinyaga. We have seen the same in so many other counties where even drugs are not being procured. So the standardization is a problem. And now we are seeing it also in Kiambu. Do you know that the scenario in Kiambu will not have been in existence if healthcare was centrally managed? Because then the ego of the governor will not be an issue.
They wouldn't come
Just the
into play.
same way we've had in other places. It will have been sorted because it's the right thing to do.
How does that play against the model of devolution, which the Constitution essentially guarantees, whereby you'll have smaller pockets for manageable processes of resources and healthcare and education and things like that? How would you see, well, maybe not education, but that you see manageable pockets of things? How does that play against the devolution model? Or are we saying that, no, we've tried it for 14 years, it's not working, let's take it back and see how it would work if it was centralized?
And you and me agree that the issues of infrastructure, that is brick and mortar for constructing hospitals, counties have done so well. We can go to every county and see big hospitals that are being constructed that are actually visible. But when you come to service delivery in those hospitals, there has to be, people must get care. The essence of an hospital being built is that you get to the hospital, you see a doctor. You go to the lab and you get the diagnosis. You get drugs. You get admitted, go to theater if you're supposed to go. That is the essence of service provision. But when you have a structure that is 7-star, and then there are no healthcare workers in it, or there are no drugs, or there are no equipment, then it remains a 7-star building that otherwise should not exist in the first place. So that's what we are seeing. So it means that must be a way that politicians are left for things that enhance politics, like constructions of those hospitals. They can be left for counties, like the primary healthcare for health centers that can be done. But now the actual health delivery need to be relooked into. Why? Because we are seeing consistent problems that are occurring. County keep on saying that they have exceeded their budget. They've gone into 50% of their budget in paying for wages. If that is the case, it means that they can't offer the care because for them to employ more healthcare workers, for them to promote these healthcare workers, for them to get the drugs, then they will have over-exceeded this PFM Act. Why then can't we just then have a centralized body that handles this health workforce? It could even be that COG. That then is constitutionally made to make things move. And the law, the constitution are not just made for the sake of it. They're made to make sure things are better. The moment we have problems in the healthcare because of a particular article of the constitutions or a particular part of the law, then that's why people need to rise up and decide how do we change this particular thing. So that's where we are with most of these counties, because there's a lot of dishonesty. And I told you, out of 47 people, you must get some who are mad. You might get some who are not interested. And we have a tendency as a country, and even in the world, that mostly we elect mad people who don't care, but can talk.
Dr. You see, as the battles continue between counties, national government, and the unions, at the end of that tale is a Kenyan who needs service. It is not a question of doctors are not there, so we will continue playing this egoistic behavior on who is the bigger guy. In Kiambu County yesterday, we saw 126 babies died. Maternal deaths continue to go up. And these would have been the conversation in terms of we are offering service so that Kenyans can have a better life because the Constitution mandates that. In your own assessment, seems like it's politics being played, the game of egos. Do they care in terms of Kenyans are dying and perhaps they need better services?
I think most of the governors, most of the counties are so much concerned in the image they portray. I mean, we had a strike in Machakos where the only thing that was visible was the ambulance and the front part. The all wards were empty. And it went for 2 months. It's until the day that the media exposed the situation that the strike was called off, that there was agreement. That's the same display that every county has. In reality, what happens or what has been happening in Kiambu County and what will continue happen is catastrophic. It is not right. It is not something that should be in any way be condoned. That particular individuals who are in leadership can actually try to cover things that are happening. And that's why there's a reality that people need healthcare. Doctors ought to offer services in the hospital, not at home. But you cannot do that when you are not supported. By the way, if doctors are not paid their salaries, if they're not given the equipment and the drugs that they need to offer those services, then their role will just be supervise those deaths in the hospitals. So the reality that some of the actions we take in these strikes is to make it possible to have the much needed healthcare for the public in those hospitals.
Right.
Yes. So in reality, for Kiambu County, what is needed is accountability. We said it, and I can say it today. We are ready to sign a return to work formula to end the strike in Kiambu even now. Because if they say that they will do those things, which we have agreed for the fourth time, even though they're being promises, why then should they take us into circles by wanting to victimize doctors, by not wanting to pay them salaries? It is them that are on strike. And it is them that then accountable for what is happening. Because for us, we are ready to go back even now.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's go back to the ministry at a national level where, you've said it, not once, but you seem to have a forward-looking cabinet secretary of health at the moment. And I haven't heard you say that about anyone else of the last three that have been there in the last 2 years. But for some reason, you believe that CS Dwale understands it. He's not a medical man. He's not a doctor. But he seems to have something that you are thinking he understands. Play this out for us in terms of the other things that we see taking place on the ground, whereby there's the whole Shah debacle, whether we are not quite sure what's going on with that. So many things also coming into play here where Linda Mama worked and now it doesn't. So now we're hearing that it's Linda Jami. And so here you have a CS who's forward thinking and is probably going to fix a lot of the things that are happening. Again, he's not a medical man. And you've also vouched for have a doctor to manage things in the Ministry of Health. This is a very clear case that he's not one, but he seems to resonate. With all the things that are happening, Shah working, not working, monies sent, not sent, healthcare being provided, not being provided. Do you think he can work it through?
I'm not a politician.
Okay.
Neither am I a student of politics. But I speak about things that happen. If, for example, I talked about the CS, it's based on the return to work formula that we signed on May 2024.
Yes.
It's not the first time we signed a work formula with the government. Neither have we not signed or return to work formula with counties, which you end up having strikes. So when these gentleman comes to office and we have a meeting on 10th of April and have timelines on when these things will be implemented, the issue of, as I said, posting of medical interns and payment of these interns as per the CBA, with a budget of over 9 billion, that is done. When you agree
you can
about
see it, it's happening.
It's done.
Okay.
And actually, there are 6,000 interns who are at the internship centers being paid the right wages based on that agreement, which was making us to fight and which made us to push for Nakumja to leave, and which none of these people before could stand for it. When the issue of the UHC comes in and it addresses the UHC when they're demonstrating that within 3 weeks I'll solve this matter and you'll be paid the right harmonized wages. They are being paid that in this September. It's not a story anymore. When there are arrears for doctors that we had to go on strike for, that even in December for them to be paid, we had to actually want to go on strike again. He said they'll be paid within the financial year. They were paid, it was paid in September. Like the doctors in the 47 counties received the money. When we agreed that the money for ministry doctors would be paid, it was paid. When we talked about postgraduate fees being approved, this was not approved since 2019. And when we discussed it, it was approved in August 2025. So the elements of the things that we have agreed that are done are not fictitious, are not political things. They're things that affect the lives of each and every individual doctors, wherever they are, in terms of their arrears, in terms of the internship, in terms of even the fees. So that's the reality. And therefore, these doctors are then motivated to offer the services. That's one side. On the issue of SHA, we as a union stood up against SHA in 2023. And even went to court about it, litigated it. And there's so many issues that we talked about that were challenges in SHA. You remember that at that time, the MPs, members of parliament, approved or passed it without a dot or a comment on it.
Right.
But who was the minister? It was not Duale at that time. There was another minister who was in charge of the process. So it is, I believe, dishonesty or an act of dishonesty for parliamentarians who went through this act and passed it to come and start accusing the minister. That's the first problem. Because if there's an issue, they need to sort it out. They need to recall this document and say, what is it that we need to fix? Like number one thing, which is okay, which is good, we support. Number one thing is this issue of, it's insurance bias, whereby in NHIF, you're supposed to, when you pay, you have to stay for 6 months before you start accessing care. In Social Health Authority, you pay, you go to the hospital, you are sick. You're being told that for the mean testing, you're supposed to pay 3,600. You pay the 3,600 and the patient approves 200,000, they pay. You go to the... So that's the reality about what SHA is. That's different from NHIF. We said that one needs more money in SHA when that is happening. And that's what, when you hear what Dr. Lesenga has been saying, that every month, SHA spends like 9.5 billion in hospitals, while NHIF, while they collect about 6.5 billion. I don't have the statistic, but that's what has been said, which to me is a good thing. Why? It's a good thing that the number of Kenyans that are approved to get care is more than what is being collected.
Yeah.
So what will be the solution of the unpaid wages in SHA or unpaid services that have been offered by private hospitals? What will be the crisis? What will be the solution? Because the crisis means that Kenyans have gone to these private hospitals and gotten care. So the crisis is good that people have gotten care. The only issue that people have not been, the hospitals have not been paid. So number one thing is that the issue of the indigent. That they say there's more money being injected in SHA. It means that they can pay this bill. Number two, it means that we as Kenyans must ensure that more people register and pay up to increase the funds in this particular SHA. The other thing is the parliamentarians. Because they passed this act, and this act needs more money, like in the primary health care. So it means that the parliamentarians, health committee, need to sit down and say, okay, how much do we inject more to ensure that once these services are offered, then they're paid? Because if the service that have been offered is 90 billion, it means that Kenyans have gone to the hospitals and SHA's approved for 90 billion. If it means that 60 billion has been paid, there's a deficit of 30 billion. So our conversation should not be, is it working? That is not a question anymore, because hospitals have offered services to that amount. The issue is the amount that has been paid is less than the amount that is owed. Which in this case, how do we get that cleared? That, I think, is a crisis which is not bad, in the sense that healthcare need to be offered by the government. Healthcare need to be provided by people paying. So then people need to come up into it. I think that is the clear solution. On the flip side, we look at this issue of before the ICU in NHIF, it's about 4,000. When SHA came in, it was 4,000 per day. When we all complained, it increased to 27 to 28,000 per night. So that was a bigger increase over seven times. Meaning those understand, and this happened also when the minister came in. There's also this issue of the oncology. I was actually a victim of it because of my parents. My father has been was getting this 600,000 every year for his oncology treatment. But when SHA came in, it was reduced to 300,000. When this became a concern, and the first month of his office, this was increased to 550. I don't complain that there are no issues, but the issues that are there, the way he has been responsive in them is different. Another thing that I'll keep saying is the publication of the hospitals that have been paid. To me, that is a good thing, because before we used to hear that hospitals have been paid and we didn't know which one. So when that has been brought out to the public, for us to say, okay, this hospital 1, 2, 3 has been paid, we then have all the reasons to say whatever we can say, but then we are seeing what has been paid. The other thing, which has both good sides and other sides, is the issue of stopping facilities in parts of fraud. You know, for a long time, we're being told NHIF has frauds, that they're cartels. But then the former minister will single out one person and say, this is the person who is doing cartel. There was no time that they're being said, no, now these are frauds. And it used to come after payments have been done. Now, based on the system that Dr. Mwangangi and Dr. Marion and the team in SHA and Dr. Oluga, the SHA team have put up, is that before they pay, whenever they have questions, they flag you out. Which is a good thing, because then that prevents the pilferage of public funds. The only thing that we have concern with is that this should be fast-tracked. It should be a quick process. It should be that if you're flagged, it takes more weeks to that to be sorted. But in reality, that is a way to ensure that there's accountability. Yeah. So, and then there's also this concern of the 360 geographical issue, which I believe with conversations, they can be sorted. I have had conversation with Oluga. And Luga has confessed that with the minister we have now, they have the conversations and get things done, get things moving. The same thing the PS has said, and the same thing other bodies are saying. So it then means what has always been lacking, because I've seen these different people having engagement, is whereby people address each other. You say this and you mean this with no solution put in place. Yes.
So let's talk about SHA the way we are at the moment. So we have many more Kenyans accessing the services, but you equally have many more Kenyans who have registered but are not paying. And for us to be able to get the universal healthcare as promised, then everybody has to come on board and pay. And Parliament as well needs to retract the act and look at how we will meet the deficit. So are we having this discussion so that we sort out this problem once and for all, starting from the legislators themselves to find a solution equally, and the government to find how it will ensure that everyone who is in the system is paying?
You know, there was a provision in the Act that was to ensure that. That it was saying that if you are not paid up or you're not paying up your SHA, then you are not to access any public services.
Yes.
You are not to get your birth certificate, you get marriage certificate, death certificate, all those things. We went to court because we found that to be unconstitutional. And the reality, from some of the articles in that particular act that was removed are such ones. But then it's our responsibility as Kenyans to know that if I have gone to the hospital and for sure I paid, this is an honest conversation, not even politics. I have paid for my, let's say my house manager 4,000, 5,000, and they've been paid for their bills. Or they go to a primary health facility and they access the care, then it is our responsibility to ensure that people pay up. And tell people that it is not possible to have care for free. If you don't pay up, then somebody else is not going to access this care. The also other responsibility for the government, where they say the primary health care is free. Parliamentarians should be the last people to be on the streets claiming that these things are not working. Because when you are elected in the office, you have a mandate and a responsibility to offer services. So if the primary health care is said to be free, and the money is said to be limited, that has not paid facilities, approve more money. Because then that will give us a solution that we need. But most of the things, most of the good things are lost in political rhetorics. Because somebody wants to say, this was good, this was bad, but we have to come and say, what is it being offering? When we had a concern as a union, when the civil servant across the country was removed from SHA, from NHIF, the NHIF Civil Servant Comprehensive Cover, it was removed in SHA. That is the transition clause number 5. We had a concern with that. We had a concern when the Edu Afia was removed.
Right.
We had a concern when Linda Mama was removed. So we had to come to understanding that what is the replacement of these particular health services. And that's when we had discussion with the ministry and with SHA that the civil servant comprehensive cover, instead of taking that money, over 10 billion, to private insurance, that money needs to be taken to SHA because then it becomes a joint big money. The same thing is now happening for the teachers. Instead of taking 20 billion to Jubilee and Yons, and these are public servant, put the money to SHA. Because then with that, we have a bigger pool. The same thing, when you look at the benefit packages that have been put there for, let's say, for maternity, compare 1-to-1 with what was there in Linda Mama, you'll realize that this one is superior. But because of politics, there's a different conversation. That's why I'm saying I'm not what? I am not a politician. There has to be, we have to design facts. What is it in this? What can be challenged in this and what can be fixed in this? With that, we have a real conversation that actually is going to benefit all of us. Yes.
Okay. So, I mean, even as we're looking at a lot of moving parts at the same time, you've talked about, I mean, maybe not necessarily calling it so, but a health service commission probably is required to streamline a lot of the operations along, because teachers have it, and to an extent it seems to be working for teachers because they know who's going where, they know how much is being paid, they know who's being hired. That is all being sorted out from a central place. What has gripped most people's attention at the moment is SHA and how it is going to work or not work. Do you think there's benefit? And this is probably going to be the last bit that we talk about. Is there benefit? Because when first of all, communication around SHA, admittedly by the ministry, at the time when it started its rollout, communication around it and how it's going to work was lacking. Is there not a need for constant communication from the ministry in terms of what will work? If I have a bill of 800,000 shillings, I want to know ahead of time that at the very least 700,000 shillings is going to be paid because of the fact that I have contributed, number one. Number two, you're asking me to contribute 12 months upfront. Then surely, if I go to hospital, I'm going to hope that I'm not going to have to go and look for more money because you've told me that this is how the thing is going to work. Had you not told me that, perhaps I'm going to be thinking of something else that I need to do. But people have been told that this is what's going to happen. From a union point of view, from a medical practitioner's point of view, how should this communication work? So at the very least, folks know what they ought to be doing.
I think there has to be a clear communication from all of us, knowing that healthcare can never be free. And that's why when you don't have health insurance, you go to the hospital, people sell their lands, people sell their cows People sell their properties to get the care, and therefore there's need for everybody to have insurance. We see in these Western countries that it's called social services. You must have, it's like a requirement.
Yes.
You must have it. There has to be mechanisms that governments put this in place. We have those who are salaried are able to have the deductions from salary to take this part of this. We have seen what happens in Thailand and now what's happening in South Africa, where they have come to realization with the fact that if you are an informal sector where your salaries or your wages are not determined, it is almost impossible to contribute monthly. So what have they decided to do? They decided to put it as there's like a government contributions to all this. So you look at the informal sector, what is it that's going to be put up to ensure that everybody is covered? Is in what means? Like, let me say, part of tax, then covering this particular healthcare, so that wherever hospital you go, because you have the ID, you access this care. This will be an easier way to handle that rather than asking the informal sector to pay.
Right.
But now that we are there, the most important thing is to make people understand and see the value.
Yeah.
That here you'll pay 3,600 per year, but when you're sick, when your household are sick, you access the care.
Yes.
And if you don't pay, then when you pay at that point, somebody else will
being
not
treated
access the care.
then.
So that is the balance that need to be known. That is the education that we need to have. It need to come from the Ministry of Health. It need to come from the counties, in the churches, in the union, and everywhere else. Because at the end of the day, when social authority is not working, even doctors don't have jobs.
Does it make
when
sense?
insurance is
Okay.
not working, even the doctors can't see the patients.
Sure.
Because they must be able to access care for doctors to work.
So alongside with that communication, there have been arguments that, there are a lot of people who operate within the miniature economy. A lot of people,
Yeah.
whereby you're spending, give or take, 150 shillings, 200 shillings per day. Does it make sense to have a program whereby if you're collecting 20 shillings every day, every 3 days from 1 million people into this system, it makes a difference?
Yeah.
Can you say that for those who look at 500 shillings times 12, 6,000 shillings at once, it's a lot of money.
It is.
But when you look at it, 20 shillings every day, when you're buying your food and whatever, if you put it into the pool in the long run, then it would make a difference. Should that be part of this kind of communication that we have?
Yeah, I think that now, that's why the ministry has employed competent people in SHA. I saw the last time they employed Dr. Marion who used to be the union and Secretary General of KMA.
Yes.
We've seen Massimo Wangangi, we've seen Dr. Luga there. We've seen all these. We've seen Professor Jaoko in these benefits and packages. We've seen quite competent individuals in these. And I think that's what I think people need to explore. What innovative mechanisms will ensure that there's a maximum collection and there's more funds in the social authority? And then what, again, the parliament should look at, what will ensure that these hospitals are actually offering services. They don't have to wait for a longer period because there's no funds there, and put an adequate budget for this primary health care, which I think they've tried to increase it now. I think it's at 13 billion. But if we need to have 50 billion, why can't they just give it to the ministry, to Kenyans to access the care? Because as we say in Do, health can never be free, Dennis. It has to be paid for. And if the insurance is not working, you have to use out of pocket.
To sort
Out
it
of
out.
10, how would you rate the healthcare in the country?
This is quite a divergent point.
Yeah.
And I will say that when you look at the myriads of issues in every county where things are not working, things are not moving, it's hardly difficult to give it more than 5. Because you have to look at the primary point of care in the counties. So that's one thing that you have to look at. Are the counties offering the services that are needed? Why are we getting more into private healthcare service provision?
Right.
Because then that means when you go to access healthcare in the private sector more, it means the public sector, which counties here are failing.
It's failing.
It means they're not offering services. That's why even the private hospitals can rise up and say, no, we are going to offer services, and people get scared. But if the healthcare was working in the public facilities, then that would not be an issue.
Indeed.
Indeed.
It wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Dr. Davji Atellah is the Secretary General of the KMPDU, has been here with us this hour, opening our eyes to quite a number of things and pushing forward the conversation in terms of things that ought to happen, what we should see, and also then looking at the gains made and being able to celebrate them, but then pushing to say that let's get to a point whereby some of these conversations, we should not be having them in the future. Thank you for being here with us this morning.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate that, and for ending the week with us on The Situation Room. Guys, have a good weekend. Let's keep talking. It's necessary that we do. This is The Situation Room.
This is The Situation Room. the only way to start your day.